Welcome to the haunting world of our Scary Stories Horror podcast. On our first thrilling debut episode, we have Taylor Dulong joining us all the way from Surrey, British Columbia. Prepare yourself as Taylor took us on a haunting journey through her childhood, where she encountered spirits and paranormal phenomena that will send shivers down your spine. So get cozy, put on your headphones, and let's dive into the eerie tales that await. Are you ready to get spooky? Hi, Taylor, and welcome to our horror podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
Can't complain. I mean, it's pretty cold in California, kind of weird for this time, but you know, can't. What can I do?
True.
Not as cold as Chicago.
Oh
Fun.
yeah, yeah, really frigid. I lived there before too, so yeah, can't complain comparing to Chicago for sure. Well, from our understanding is that you're currently experiencing some haunting by a spirit. And we
Um,
want we want to hear about that, but you know, from our previous conversation, you mentioned that you experienced this growing up. So we'd like to hear, how it came to be, how you encountered, your first encounter, well, your first spirit growing up.
um, yeah, that one's kind of a weird story, and I'm still not entirely sure what exactly I saw. Um, but basically, when I was like 3 or 4, I saw a spirit that was pretty transparent, humanoid in shape, but it was gold, and I was really little, so I was sleeping in the same bed as my sister, and I noticed it first, and I woke her up to see what I was seeing. I thought it was pretty neat, but when she took a glance at it, she just started screaming. So because she started screaming, then I started screaming and crying, and it turned into a whole big deal where our parents obviously came running up the stairs. We slept in the attic, and it took them quite a while to console us. Like we were pretty upset. Um, and that's when I learned that we had a brother that passed away, that was also adopted. And my dad tried to assure us that it was probably our brother and he wouldn't set out to hurt us. And that's why he left, because when her and I started like screaming and crying, whatever it was, jumped through the roof. Like it wasn't out there to hurt anybody, right? It just showed itself for whatever reason and never saw it again. But that was my first experience with something from the other side.
Interesting.
Yeah, and sorry to hear about your brother and the way you found out. Sometimes that's how life is. It's unexpected and things happen sometimes without us knowing. Um, and so after that happened, like how long did it take you to accept what you saw, or you know, or were you always looking out to see maybe if you would see something else?
Um, I wouldn't say I necessarily even put much thought into it, right? It was just a one-off thing. Didn't really think too much into it. I was pretty little. Um, but as I got older, like, maybe when I was like 5 or 6 or 7, kind of up from there, is when I really started to have other encounters with stuff that I couldn't put a name or reason to what was happening. And I would find out what they were called like afterwards, like poltergeists and um just regular ghosts and entities and just like supernatural stuff. But usually I would have something happen and then I would hear from somebody else what that particular thing was called, and I'd be like, oh, okay, so it wasn't just in my head.
So once you found out about, the name of these, spirits or entities, or, depending on the circumstance, how did your understanding change accordingly? as things started to transition for you?
Um, I was more or less just confused as to why I could see them or had these experiences, and just generally feeling uncomfortable, like why was this happening to me, and what were these things, what did they want, what was the purpose in me seeing them, was there a way to maybe not see them, but then also being intrigued, right? Because it is fascinating, but it's also terrifying. Like, even though you know what you're seeing or you're experiencing stuff, like even now when stuff happens, like I'm a little bit braver. Some things I handle a bit better than others, but like if I see something that manifests, or maybe feel like something's breathing on me, or I hear knocking in the walls and stuff, or my faucet turns on, that stuff makes me really uncomfortable, to be honest. It's quite nerve-wracking, and I haven't quite figured out how to deal with that stuff. Um, I have to run to other psychics and stuff to see if they can help me cleanse if that isn't working right, just because when you do stuff like that, it helps your own energy feel a bit safer, and sometimes it can kind of repel stuff. So that's the only way I've been able to cope with stuff. But I just try to remind myself that most of the time you're safe. It's not gonna hurt you. And I've just kind of learned to deal with these experiences, right? There's nothing else I can really do. I'm open to seeing them for whatever reason.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable. I mean, especially dealing with the spectral side of things. You don't know how these spirits are going to, come to you, or if they're going to be evil, or it's a familiar. So, it's always good to, be on edge with that, just to make sure that you're not welcoming the wrong spirits, or demons, or whatever they may be. Um, and so when you got a better understanding of what you were seeing, um, like, besides it intriguing you, did it push you to contact them, or you know any other sort of, like, how can I put it? Like, did it push you to try and look into, like, magic or anything like that yourself?
Um, I haven't really been sure how I felt about magic even till just recently, to be honest. Now I kind of believe in it, but I think there's a lot more frauds out there, or just people that are mentally ill. I never really set out to find anything until my sister passed away. That's when I full blown went to some cemeteries. I didn't realize we were super haunted. Um, and I brought something back with me, and it followed me around for a couple months, and it was just wreaking havoc by being a poltergeist, just throwing stuff around. Um, that would be the only instance of me going out willingly to look for anything. But my sister did want to play with a Ouija board when we were little. I didn't really want to do it, but I only did it because I wanted to protect her and whatnot. Um, but yeah, no, these are not things like, I always thought it would be interesting to go ghost hunting and stuff, but how dangerous it can be, and opening yourself up, and just, even legal stuff, like if you're going into abandoned house and stuff. I've just decided that that isn't for me, because as much as I want to, I'm more nervous
Hmm.
about having a negative attachment.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't blame you, though. As a teenager, you tend to do things that are out of the ordinary, just for the thrill of it. And sometimes you pay the price. Now that we know how your experience was growing up, as a kid going into your teenage years, um, would you have any words for people that might be going through that are at a young age, and they don't know what's going on, or how to say, like, tell somebody about it without looking or feeling like they might be losing their mind?
That one's a tough one because everybody's gonna, well, most people are gonna be assuming you're not mentally stable and that, this is all just in your head. I would say if you have somebody that you can talk to about it, even if they don't believe in what you're saying, that can be really helpful. Just having some safe space where you can, vent to somebody about your experiences. It's good to keep a logbook of maybe stuff that's been happening to you if it's frequent. Obviously talk to your doctors because, it could be something medical, and just try to like stay strong because you reacting in fear or anger just feeds whatever is around you. And you just got to try and take control of the situation and just, as best as you can, try and ignore it or try to find ways that might repel it, is pretty well the only advice I have.
Yeah, and that's definitely understanding. I mean, we see it in movies, people say, "Oh, I saw something," or, but, it ultimately comes down to, each person individually and how they want to handle it. Um, and, I'm sure some people might have a close friend or, they might even be close to their parents to where they can open up and, deal with what they're going through. Um, so let's back up a bit. I want to know about the cemetery. Like, what made you go there? What followed you? Um, how'd you feel about it?
Oh my God. Just like trauma. um oh man. I honestly try not to think about that one too much because that was one of the other unnerving experiences I had. So basically, when my sister passed away, I just got a bit more curious about the other side and was wondering if there's like way to contact things. I heard there was. So I wanted to see if I could do that. It wasn't necessarily to contact her, it was just to see what else is out there, right? Um, so I went to forget which cemetery it is, but there's a Ross Bay Cemetery in Victoria. That's where I went. And there was a really creepy I'm not sure what you call it, but it's like kind of like a tomb. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, really creepy, really old, and my god sister boyfriend at the time, Jeff, he doesn't believe in any of that, and he even said that that particular one made him really uncomfortable. Like at one point, he like had to like run away at in the middle of the night because it made him that nervous. So I went there in the daytime, uh, with a really high quality video recorder at the time. And I just started asking questions at it, and just recording. And I got some eerie EVPs responding to some questions, mostly just either kind of making like a yeah noise by going, right?
Yeah.
Or hearing a yeah, just whispery. Um, and so that was eerie. I went there a few times and I got evidence every time. And then I went back to my god sister's place, and she was staying in like 200-year-old house. So it already had creepy vibes in there. But I was downloading the footage, and while I was downloading, at some point I went to get up to go to the kitchen for something, and I'm like, in the corner of like this house. Um, and the second I stood up, something started growling at me. Uh, I'm not sure if I would say it was demonic, but it just sounded like a nasty dog, just like trying to get you to stay in one place, right? So I was really confused, and like I stood up and I thought about it, being like, "What is going on?" Right? Because I didn't expect it. It was really confusing, and I was also just kind of bewildered by it. So I stood up, thing growled, I sat back down, thing went kind of quiet, stood up, and just repeating through that cycle, just trying to figure out what was going on. Um, and I remember looking at the camera recorder because it was far enough away where I couldn't reach it. I just had a long extension cord on it. And I was really wanting, I was really wishing that I had it closer so I could have flipped it on and maybe I could have recorded some of this growling because it was loud. Like it sounded like there was a dog in the room beside me. Um, and I had to get up the nerve to like kind of crawl along the wall to get out of the situation. And I could hear it like gnashing its teeth and like licking its lips and just growling at me. And I kind of decided that I was going to be really tough and try and get past this thing. And once I got to a certain point, it just left. Um, but I was really creeped out for a while there. And I was there all alone and I was like 15, 16, right? So that was unsettling. Nothing really happened after that, like in that house, but like I had poltergeist like stuff happening around me for like a few months. One of the creepier ones of the poltergeist activity was I was in a photography class in high school and I was in the black room all by myself because everybody else was in the computer room. I was developing stuff in the black room and I already had creepy feelings. And plus, the black room's just creepy. It's just dark, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course.
so I was in there and I was trying to develop some stuff. I was like in the finishing phases of it, and I'm just trying to keep my cool because I needed to get the stuff done. And from where I was getting the creepy feeling, like in a closet area, a tray was thrown across the room where I was. It didn't hit me, it just went right by me. Scared the piss out of me. So I just ran out of there, left my film and stuff. Was really nervous, locked up the unit, went into my art teacher's class, and he saw how freaked out I looked. And immediately he's like, "What happened? What's going on? Why did you run out of there?" And I'm like, I just don't want to, I don't want to go in there. And he's like, "Weren't you trying to develop stuff?" I'm like, "I was, but something happened," and he could just tell something was off. So he had me kind of fess up, and I told him that I went ghost hunting, and then this thing I guess was following me, and it threw a tray at me from in the black room. Uh, and he was not. I thought he was just telling me I was crazy. He was not happy. He told me a story about um him having like shadow beings like in Ontario, which apparently this is a common thing. There'd be like shadow people leaping in the trees in the certain area, like watching you. And he was telling me about his experience with that. And he's like, don't mess with it. Try to ignore it. It'll probably lose interest in a while. Just like don't feed into it. So I was like, okay. And he's like, never go ghost hunting again. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. um, and yeah, it just took a few months to get it to leave. But yeah, just all this weird stuff was happening, and like, yeah, I learned my lesson.
And like during that time that that was happening, is that were you around when they played the Ouija board, or was it that a whole
Oh,
different time?
that was when we were kids. Like that was like when we must have been 7, maybe 8 max.
Oh, okay. So you guys were really, really young. But
Yeah.
even then, a lot younger also means a lot more um open to those type of things. Um, so, I'm assuming nothing happened when you were around for that. Um,
No, just like weird stuff had always happened in my life, but the creepy thing about this is that, of course, being kids, they had to be like, when are we gonna die? Who's gonna die? And it said my sister, right? So it spelled Danielle. And of course then my sister started screaming and crying and like they're freaking out and um they ended up like at least closing it right by going to goodbye or whatever. And then they ended up, it was just on cardboard. They ended up ripping it up and lighting it on fire and trying to comfort my sister. And um she was the first one to die. um but at the same time, I had told like I've always been kind of psychically inclined. I just knew stuff that I even had theories about the other side, but I just knew stuff that I probably shouldn't know. And I remember being like probably a creepy 3 or 4 year old. We were just, toddlers basically, and I just like deadpan looked at my sister one day and I was like, "You're gonna die first." Like, what?
oh
I'm like,
well.
"Yeah, you're gonna die." And she's like crying and she's like, "When?" I'm like, you're not gonna make it till you're 20." Which now I feel bad about, but I was like a toddler. Like, how am I supposed to know what's right or wrong to say? And then I said, then dad's gonna die. And this whole thing. And that's how it went in the family. Is my sister passed away, and then my dad passed away, and I'm assuming, I don't know anymore. I haven't tried to dabble in these thoughts, and I don't have those powers as much anymore. But I'm assuming my mom's next, and then I'm next. I think I'm supposed to go when I'm like 80, is what I was told. So, um, yeah, that's that's kind of like how that's gone with that. Just weird stuff.
Yeah, that's, definitely, something that's hard to cope with. Um, now that you say you don't have, these abilities, like how do you feel about that? Does it sometimes spark curiosity for you to, you know, reopen that, or is it just something that you try to stray from?
Um, I have mixed feelings about it. I feel like it was probably a good thing that it doesn't happen anymore because it could be really emotionally draining knowing this stuff. Like I would know to the hour or minute when something or somebody was going to pass away. Um, I used to be able to see auras, I could predict like the future more or less. The death thing really freaked people out. I could predict severe injuries. Um, so I don't miss the stress, but it is kind of an interesting flex, I guess if you can call it that. Um, but I don't miss the drama. And as you get older, it's harder to decipher if this is actually what's going to happen because the older you get, the more you have self doubt and the more you learn about the world. So it's like, is this in my head? Is it going to happen? Whereas a kid, you don't really think about that. It's just for me, then it was just matter of fact, like dead ass stone face. I'm just like, nope, this is what's going to happen. And just like, there was no convincing me otherwise, right? But now you could probably convince me that oh, maybe you're just stressed out, or maybe it was from a bad sleep, or maybe you need to go on meds, you need to see somebody. It just kind of, you can't trust things the older you get, it seems.
Yeah, it seems that the older we get, the more excuses we come up for it.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I was a child, we used to, I don't know if you had these things up there or if you were old enough for this. We had these 8 balls that had like a little dice inside.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember doing that too with my friends when we were like in sixth grade or something like that. And, we would shake the little ball and be like, oh, am I gonna win the lottery when I'm older? Just dumb stuff like that and, play with it. Oh, am I gonna die? Am I gonna be
Yeah, of
old?
course. Everybody asks, am I gonna die? Well, I mean, like, to be fair, we're all
And
gonna die, but it's just stupid kid
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, eventually, but it's like you said, like when you're a kid, you don't think about these things. And, a lot of the times, as a child, you're able to see things that you just don't understand. And, as you start to get older, you realize what's really going on. And sometimes, yeah, it causes you to think like, am I going nuts here? And, all you got to do is, or can do is just live with it. And it's up to you to decide what path you want to follow. And sometimes it seems that a path like that can also be on your back, and it wants you to reopen that past. And I can't say I would recommend not to or to, because everyone's different, and everybody's personal decision is what leads to what you want to do, basically.
I just don't want to encourage these things, right? That's what I've been told, and that's just what I know is I just try the best I can to ignore these things.
Yeah, and I mean, at least from my perspective, that's what I would do. If I was constantly being harassed, or they just want the attention, I just ignore it. It's like I don't have time for that. I don't need it around. I don't need to see what you're doing. It's just leave me alone. What do you
Yeah.
think, Tom?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't want to be Constantly woken up to things, or my kitchen drawers are all open.
Oh, I hate that. Well, I haven't had kitchen drawers open, but I've had my faucet turned on and I've heard shuffling in my room or knocks or the lights flickering until I ask them to stop.
You know what? Out of all of those, I think the light flickering is the most annoying, especially when you're
It is
sleeping.
annoying. Yeah, very annoying.
So after that whole incident with the cemetery and in the developing room for the photos, um, how long after that did it take for you to experience something else or see something?
Oh, not long. I had another few experiences when I was in foster care. And besides that, every year, because my sister passed away, every year for the first few years, my sister would kind of remanifest. I wouldn't see her, but just weird stuff would happen around her birthday and death day. Which is interesting because if anybody knows me, I can't remember anybody's birthday. I barely remember my own birthday when it comes up. Um, so I would be told by my family that, oh yeah, it's her birthday coming up and her death day, and I'm like, oh, great, fun. Um, so she would kind of bug me for like 3, 4 months. I think it was three to 2 months was mostly the time frame. Um, and she would just like, jump on my bed to crawl and like sleep with me because that's what she did when she was alive. And I'd be like, you're making me nervous. And I don't like cuddling when I'm sleeping. So like, please leave me alone. And then I'd feel it leave. But then as she didn't leave, she'd sneak back up on the bed. And I'm like, I know you think that I don't notice, but you're really cold and I can feel your energy and I can feel when you get on the bed. Please go somewhere else. And then she'd go and she'd sit in the chair I had in the room there. And then she'd again sneak on later on. And I would see like when she was walking around, like it looked like electric like footprints almost. Um, and she'd just hide things. So that was like something that really made me nervous. I tried not like she'd follow me everywhere. I tried not to let it scare me, but at some point I had a mental breakdown with my dad, and I was like hyperventilating and shaking and saying she's gonna come, like all these things. And my dad's like, she's not out to hurt you, like she just loves you. And I'm like, but it's so scary. And so he ended up having a one-on-one talk with her, just talking to nothing when I wasn't there.
Yeah.
um and she's never done it again. And I was very confused. I was like, huh, like nothing's happened. And that's when my dad told me, he's like, I had a talk with her and I told her that um she shouldn't do that anymore and that she was really scaring you. And ever since then, like she's now apparently my spirit guide, and like she's never done anything like that again. So yeah.
So in regards to that situation, like how certain were you that this was your sister?
Just
And
the behavior and the timing.
so it all
Yeah.
just blended in together, like you knew it was
Yeah,
her for sure.
I didn't feel like I was in any danger. It was just creepy, right? That's the
No,
biggest
yeah.
thing. It was just creepy. I didn't feel like anything was out to hurt me. Nothing was out to hurt me. It was just creepy having something jump on your bed because it would make an indent. She'd jump on my bed and then she'd crawl up and then she'd wrap her arms around me, and it was freezing cold and I could feel her breath because she'd snuggle up in my hair, and I was just like, oh, just no, can we not do this? And that was like one of the main things when I was in foster care. And then there was like a haunted cabin we went away to on holiday, and that was like a whole experience that was really bad. That was actually really scary. Um, but yeah, it's just been like little things like here and there. Usually it's just out of left field, like maybe something decided to jump in my car because it liked me and then it followed me home, or just weird stuff like that. You people think that you have to be doing something to have an attachment. Spirits are just like people. They're out wandering around, and maybe they sense your energy, or they know you can sense or see them, and they just hit your ride, right?
No, that's definitely true. I can see spirits myself, and what I've experienced is that when they know that you can see them, they tend to get clingy.
Uh,
And they'll be around. They might not come into your home, but they're still there and they're trying to get your attention, and if they're waiting outside, they're just waiting for you to welcome them in. And you know, once you do, who knows what the heck can happen? You don't
yeah,
know what they bring, what type of energy they have, and
what they're
that's definitely something to stay away from.
yeah. You don't know what they're up to. It's just like letting a random stranger in a house. You don't know what their plan is.
Yeah,
It could be
exactly.
really innocent or it could be really nefarious.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
you
think a
know,
lot of things that do that, they're probably not human in my experience. It's just something masquerading as a person, but it's not.
no, yeah, that's definitely true. Um, demons have they're infamous for that, for portraying, spirits or anything else just so they can get access to your personal space and, start depression or, whatever it is they're after, which, it always ends up being bad.
Yeah.
Um, so now that we're on that subject, did you ever encounter a demonic spirit?
Um, I not really sure. Um, oh no, maybe I am sure. Uh, I had an attack recently, um, and I was having like seizures, which I've never had. Um, and I had to get somebody to help me deal with that. So I think that could have been maybe a demonic entity, or maybe it was just a really negative entity. Um, but yeah, it had worn me down enough that I was having like seizures and stuff. I was aware of everything, but yeah, that's probably the only one I can think of. Everything else could just be, as far as I know, just an entity that is just negative in origin and just likes to torment you, but isn't demonic. So
Yeah, I mean, the astral plane is pretty vast, so there's a lot of stuff lingering out there that we'll probably never understand, honestly. Um, Demons and evil spirits, anything negative, they all have their hidden agenda.
mhm.
And, we just got to watch out for that, especially if we want to open up to that. It's always, we always got to be cautious.
Thank you for joining us for the first part of Taylor's story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your notifications. Till next time, and remember, the shadows are always watching.